Okay, I'm just going to give you a tour of the toolbar, which is on the left hand side of your screen. As you can see, the top is Select tool, and that allows you to highlight areas of the screen. Just under that is the black pen tool, and as you can see, when you click on the black pen tool you get a little wheel that pops up. That's your properties, and within that you can change the properties of the black pen tool. You change the thickness and things like that. Underneath that we've got the coloured pen tool, and at the moment it's set to highlight in purple, but if you click on the wheel tool just to the right of it, you can change the transparency. That's what you see there. And there's also the ability to change the colours and the line thickness. Just remember to click on the save icon at the bottom of the screen when you are done. Just like that. And then once you've done that, you can draw straight onto any part of the screen. Basically, when you've got the smart tools on, you have basically a layer of acetate above all of the software packages, so you're not writing onto the desktop. It's not going to change your desktop. Now I'm just using the highlight tool there, and again it's got properties, so you can change it to green. I can change the thickness, just remember to save, and then I can colour in that smiley face green. Okay. Next icon under that is the eraser, and there's three sizes of eraser: small, medium and large, and we'll go for large, and I can just remove every part of ink that I've put onto the acetate. Remember, it's not destructive, so it won't change anything that's behind the ink layer. So I'll draw a wee smiley face again with the highlighter. Here we go. And if I can use the next icon, if I click on the mouse, now it starts off as a mouse icon with a red right mouse button, and then if you click on it, it changes to green. As soon as you click on it and it turns to green, you can click anywhere on your ink layer and the right mouse menu will pop up. Very handy if you're away from the screen. It does disappear after a brief period of time, so just make sure that you have pressed it and then quickly press the screen. So I'm just going to clear the ink there, and everything vanishes from my layer. Now underneath the right mouse menu there is the Smart Notebook, which I'm going to come to in a second, but this is the on-screen keyboard. This is really useful if you want to type or get pupils to type on the screen. Obviously you need to have a PowerPoint package or a Word document or a notebook open, otherwise it doesn't work. There we go. Yeah, so you can click on the cross to hide it, and also there's the caps lock, which lets you obviously enter capital letters, and the shift key does it for one key press. But as you can see, you need to have Word or some sort of text document open, or a text box at least. And then when you finish playing around with that, it works like a real keyboard, except that it is on the screen, and you have to use it using your mouse or your finger. Under the keyboard is an undo tool, but the last icon is the control panel, and that is where you can customize your toolbar. So you might find when you go back to your SmartBoard you don't have all the tools that I have. If you click on the control panel at the bottom, you can customize it, you can add those icons in. So I'm just adding in the magnifier, and click done and it vanishes, and then when you click on the magnifier, I haven't played around with this, but you can customize it so that you can zoom into certain areas of your screen, which will be quite useful if you've got quite a big classroom and you want to highlight something to your pupils. And that's the toolbar. Okay, this is where we start to look at the smart tools. Now down on the right hand side of your screen next to the clock there's a little icon that looks like a white CD. If you click on that you get the list of smart tools. So this is SmartBoard software that should be installed if you have a SmartBoard. Top of the list is Notebook. We'll be looking at that. The other one should be fairly self-explanatory. Orient near the bottom, that sets up your data projector to line up with your sort of touches to the screen. Okay, so it's just setting up the alignment. We're going to click on Notebooks now at the top, and this is the Smart Notebook that's going to come up. It's basically just a collection of white pages which you can write on with the pens. You can add pictures, you can add drawings and things like that. You can basically set up your learning intentions for a particular lesson, or you could set them up for a series of lessons, or you could use it for revision, which is what I mainly use it for. But I'm going to take you through some of the tools in the toolbar at the top, the tabs on the left hand side, and then I'll show you a sample resource. So I'm going to start off with the tabs on the left hand side. The page icon, which the mouse has just moved to at the moment, that just shows you, a bit like PowerPoint, the different pages, and you can click between them. You can add and remove and reorder them just by dragging. Underneath that we've got the gallery content, so when you've saved a number of notebooks, you could take parts of those notebooks and add them to future lessons. So if you've got a template for your learning intentions, for example, you could save that in the gallery, and then whenever you're creating a lesson in the future, you can just drag that template onto the first page. The last one is the attachments dialog, and that's where you can add files associated with your lesson or links to websites, and that's really useful, and I'll show you how that's used in the sample resource. The last one is the properties toolbox, and that just lets you change the colour of the text or the fill for the shape. Now when you're in any of those tabs, clicking anywhere in the white screen to the right will hide them. Okay, I'm going to take you along the top now. So the first two icons on the left hand side of the toolbar, where the mouse pointer is just now, is your left and right arrows. That's your navigation arrows between the pages. Obviously there's just one page just now, so that they are not enabled. Then you've got an add page icon, okay, with the green plus just above my arrow, and that allows you to add more content to your notebook. If you want to open a notebook, it's the open dialog, the open folder dialog. The disk dialog saves your current notebook, and that sort of clipboard is it's a list of the things that are currently saved in the computer memory, so you can paste pictures from the internet or from different applications, or text from different applications. Next along is your undo icon. It's a bit like the toolbar on the left hand side. Okay, the undo icon down just to the left of my mouse pointer. The arrow going clockwise and the toolbar at the top is your redo icon, so if you accidentally went too far back, you can hit redo and it will try and replace the item that you've accidentally deleted. If you want to delete an object without pressing the delete key on the keyboard, you can click on the big red cross. I'm going to skip the next 6 icons because they are more to do with the visuals. I'll show you them when I've got the sample lesson. This icon here is about inserting a table. Okay, now the table option in the notebook is not great. It's not as customizable as Microsoft Word, so perhaps avoid using this. Maybe type up your table in Word, or think of some other way of representing it. Might be easier. Okay, the currently selected icon is your select tool, and that lets me just draw select regions on the screen and move things around. To the right of that, and I'll just highlight it now, we've got the pen tool, and that pen will give you different styles which you could then use with your finger to draw, for example, dotted arrows, or highlight areas of the screen, or draw in red, or blue or green or black. Okay, but that's just using your finger, not using the pen tools, because if I pick up the blue pen, for example, it automatically defaults to the blue colour pen. Okay, and again, undoing will get rid. I'll just leave the pink arrow on just now. To the right of that is your special designs of pens, so you can have more flashy looking graphical lines. Okay,
These might be customizable, but I haven't really investigated it yet. The eraser's next to it with 3 different sizes. There's your arrow tools, so that's very useful if you've got a list of foreign language words and their English meanings, and if you want the pupils to draw lines between them, it's a good way of doing it. Auto shapes is the next one along, and there's your different types of vector shapes. Now these can be filled with a variety of colours and gradients and even images, so I've just drawn a square there, and I'll show you why in a second. I'm just going to use the eraser tool. I'm just going to delete some of this, make a wee bit of space. Okay. The next one along, this one here, is your shape recognition pen. So if you have got pupils and you want them to sort of build shapes on the screen, for example, I'm going to draw a triangle just with my finger. As soon as you take your finger off the screen, it tries to convert it into a related shape. So if I draw a circle, it makes it into a circle. If I draw a diamond, it kind of makes it into a diamond or a polygon. And a rectangle turns it into a rectangle. Very useful if you're going to fill them in different colours. Yeah, this is the magic pen. So this is useful if you're wanting to highlight something on your screen. Okay, that's already been written. What happens is you just basically select an area that you want highlighted. So I'll draw around this circle, and as soon as I make a connection and let go, it highlights the area that I drew around, okay, and shades the rest of the screen. And clicking on the red cross gets rid. Brilliant. The fill bucket tool pulls up the properties box, and if I click on fill effects, I can make it a solid fill, one colour fill, a gradient fill where it goes from one colour, say red to yellow, and we'll make it go forward diagonal. If I click on the rectangle, there we go, it's filled in red to yellow diagonally from top left to bottom right. The next one is a text tool, so if I wanted to add text to the screen, just pick the style, click and drag, and then type. Now obviously I'm away from my machine just now, so I want to get the keyboard up, so I'll just use the toolbar on the left hand side and press the software keyboard, get it to the right place, and then type away. Okay, and once you've got the text on the screen, if you use the select tool, you can click and drag to make it bigger, you can rotate it, and you can even copy it and clone it or lock it in place. Okay, so the other ones, the other icons at the top there is your properties bar, which just allows you to change the fill, like the tab on the left hand side. And this last one here is your rulers and angle tools. So it's useful because if you add a ruler, for example, you can drag it around, or you can click on the top or the bottom of the ruler and rotate it clockwise or anti-clockwise. If you wanted to line things up, like if you wanted to line objects, okay, if you were making a map, for example, the ruler tool would be very useful. And the last one is probably the most useful if you're allowing the pupils to access the notebook, because the up and down arrow just above the arrow here flips the toolbar from the top of the notebook to the bottom. So if your SmartBoard is too high up and the person who's using it can't reach those icons, that can just put it to the bottom of the screen so everyone can access it. Okay, I'll just get rid of the ruler by clicking on it and clicking on the red cross. And I'm going to load up the sample lesson. Like I say, I've been using this for revision more than anything else. But I have got a sample resource. Okay, so this is my sample resource. I use this with my third year class, where we're looking at multimedia design. So a combination of graphics and animation and text. So this is an example of a multimedia application with the clock on the right hand side, a little graphic bottom right, and the text on the left hand side. but it's more about what's inside the screen here. So it's about making the text more readable. So it's getting them to think about the layout of the information on the screen. Now if I click on the tab on the left hand side, it can show you the different pages. Okay, and I can reorder them by clicking and dragging. I'm just going to click away. Now if I flip the toolbar up at the top again, you should see that on the left hand side the right arrow is now activated, so I can flick to the next page very, very easily. And on this page I've got a combination of images. Okay, I've got 3 images where they've all been edited slightly differently. And what the pupils had to do was decide which one was the most usable, A, B or C. And so some discussion went on around this. Everything's locked on the screen so it can't be dragged. And then once the pupils made their votes, I wrote the numbers onto the screen just using the SmartBoard pen. So I'll just do that just now. So I see if I can remember. I think 4 people picked that one, and 7 picked that one, and 5 picked that one. Okay. So it's very interactive. And then once we had that, we moved on to the next slide, and we talked about how the text had been changed. And what I've done is I've used the auto shapes filled in grey at the bottom of the screen to hide the answers, or to screen the answers. And the pupils would discuss the different ways that the text had been edited. So I could use the magic pen tool, I could draw a box around there. Okay, it zooms into it. Just to highlight, I think I can drag that out a little bit. Oh, I've zoomed it. Okay. So it just highlights it like that, and we can talk about it. And then when they made the decisions, I can just reveal what has been changed from the original front page. So the colour's been changed, and there's different alignment that's been put in the columns. The second one, again, I can use the magic pen tool. Zooms into it. Okay, it just highlights it for the pupils, and they can talk about, there's a little bit of colour, there's some bullet points, there's a lot more white space between the text. And yes, oops, excuse me, I'll just undo that. When I reveal, you can see there's colour alignment, lists and white space. And the last one, okay, colour, bit of white space. Okay, just remember to put your select tool back on again. And so there's only 3 things there. So although they all change, B was the correct answer because it had more. There was more consideration put into it than the other 2 designs. And it's this kind of thing, the involving the pupils in discussion that the Smart Notebook is really quite useful for. Now, if there was anything that people said during that lesson that I thought would be quite useful, I could add it to the SmartBoard notebook just by having a new blank page at the end, any questions or things like that. Now what I've used it for, as well as lessons, is using it for revision. So when we're preparing for the prelim, and we're kind of talking through how to plan out computer programs, and I just put some samples on the screen. Okay, use color coding, do sort of like drew images to help pupils remember. And again, when we're coming to the final exam, let's see if I can get to the right folder. In April, there we go. We kind of concentrated on things the pupils wanted to do. I used a sort of mixture of images, and green for advantages and red for disadvantages. And the blue just gives a quick description of how to tell the difference between bitmaps and vectors. Okay, so at the moment it's very useful for revision, especially as you can export it as a PDF file. Okay, so you can export it as a file which could then be uploaded to the internet or sent to people's email account or put onto a pen drive. And every machine that's got SmartBoard Notebook installed can do this. You can see that there's multiple exports, so you can export to a website or an image or a PowerPoint, but I find PDF the best because you can then set it up a bit like a PowerPoint, so you can have thumbnails or you can have handouts or full pages, but I go for thumbnails usually, and I make sure that I use large thumbnail sizes. You can change the header and things like that, and choose which slide you want to print. Print, export to PDF, and then when you hit save, you just give it a file name. Test. And it converts it from a smart notebook to something that's fixed, which you can then, like I say, send to pupils or share with pupils later on. Okay, and my pupils have found this really useful because we've got our in our website, or we can put them on Glow, and then they can download them whenever they are needing to revise particular concepts. Like this is computer systems, about graphics, and about calculations of the size of the graphic files. So they know that they can get all the information that we talked about in class, and it jogs their memory.